Hello, everyone. This is Scott with the Film Crusader again, and today we're going to be talking about 1993 Western's Tombstone. I'm here today with my buddy Robert and my
Hello.
my sister Stacy,
Hello.
and we are going to talk about this great movie. We were going to do this movie early on anyway, but um, Val Kilmer, who plays Doc Holliday, passed away on April 1st of pneumonia. So we thought this would be a good time to sit here and talk about his portrayal of Doc Holliday and the movie itself, Tombstone. So, Stacy, you have any things you want to add to this movie about Tombstone? Any takes you have on it?
I just remember the first time I saw it. I didn't see it in the movie theaters. I saw it in 1994, and back those days, I think it was VHS. I was pregnant with my first child, and I was really, really sick during my pregnancy. And when I was watching Tombstone, it made me I felt bad for Wyatt Earp's girlfriend in the movie who was always sick all the time and got headaches and stuff. I resonated with her because at the time
You felt sorry for Maddie.
I felt sorry for Maddie in a way because she was sick, but I loved the movie. I Val Kilmer as I just don't think anybody I like better playing Doc Holliday than Val Kilmer. But you know, when you're watching Kilmer in it, it's almost uncomfortable to watch him in a sense. He's so pale throughout the whole movie and he's sweating throughout the whole movie, but you know he's sick.
Yeah, they had to
Y-
play that
But
part of
it's
tuberculosis.
almost so uncomfortable to see him, you know, because you kind of really like his character so much, and then to see him, you can see him suffering. But I know the real Doc Holliday kind of had the idea if he's got tuberculosis, then he might as well just live his life the way that he wanted to live his life. And what's interesting is I saw an interview with Val Kilmer asking how he came up with the dialect and the way he presented Doc Holliday. I don't know if you've seen that interview or not.
No,
Um, but he said his dialect coach sent him a tape, a recording of somebody from the South, kind of an aristocrat, and he talked really slow and proper. And Doc Holliday was an educated man, and Val Kilmer said, if you look at photographs from these types of people from that era, they're always standing where, like on the horse, straight up, you know, and people think, well, that's not how people, but that's really how they did ride, and that's how he rode the horses too. So but I loved him as Doc Holliday and Kurt Russell. That big mustache he had on his face, it really brought out them piercing blue eyes, and
yeah.
he was phenomenal as Wyatt Earp. And I mean, it's just a great
You
movie.
know, when I asked you what your take, I didn't mean you could talk the whole damn
Well, you
podcast.
asked me. I have so much to
I
say.
mean, I guess you do because you've taken up almost 4 minutes
Well,
of this
I
first
got
part
more
of
to.
the
Well, okay.
podcast.
So let me say this
I
too.
mean, we went from Doc Holliday and ran to Wyatt Earp.
Well, that's kind of what the movie,
Maybe
those two
we ought to just turn this
characters.
damn podcast over to you.
Maybe
Do the
so.
Stacy
But
podcast.
here's my thought about it too. So I think back in the 50s and 60s in cinema, there were so many Westerns. There was almost an abundance. There was almost an overkill of Western genres that were coming out in movies and TV. You know, John Wayne and Clint Eastwood. And by the time the 80s roll around, the Western kind of died out with the dodo. Really, it
With the what?
with the dodo, you know, the dodo bird dying out.
Oh,
But in the 80s, it was all about action movies and cop movies and
yeah.
blockbusters like Raiders and E.T. and all that stuff. So the Western kind of faded away. But then in the 90s, I feel like it
Made
started
a
to
little
come a
resurgence.
little bit of comeback. And this movie, I think, really, you know, brought the Western back to the viewers. And I thought it was a phenomenal cast movie.
Yeah.
So that's my thought. Shut up,
Wow.
Scott.
Man. Robert, how about you?
Well,
What do
I
you think of
mean,
that?
the first thing that I remember is just how many famous people are in it.
Yeah.
And if you go a couple years without watching it, and then you watch it again, you're like, oh man, I forgot he was in there. Or,
Hmm.
this guy's in it. I mean, it's just every scene is somebody else that you recognize.
Like who?
Well, I mean, Billy Bob
Yeah,
Thornton.
Billy Bob.
I mean,
Yeah.
And
it's
he's
it's a
heavier in
it's a
that
little part,
movie.
little
Yeah.
bitty
Yeah.
part, but you kind of forget about that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's not really how you see him now.
Hmm.
I mean, you almost go, is that really him? And
Yeah.
there's
And you probably
just
wouldn't recognize him, but his
His
voice.
voice.
His
right.
Yeah.
voice.
Yeah, I mean that's a giveaway. But just looking at him, you're like, is that him?
Yeah.
And
Johnny Tyler, isn't that who he played in it?
Johnny
Hmm.
Tyler,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And I mean, but there's so many other just small parts, but they're Jason Priestley's in there.
Yeah.
You don't think of him as being in a
Right.
western
Right.
at all.
Right.
Billy Zane
John Corbett,
from
wasn't
Titanic.
he in it?
John Corbett.
John Corbett, wasn't he in the movie?
I don't know who John Corbett
I'm
is.
not sure who
Oh,
that
he's the
is.
guy that played in My Big Fat Greek Wedding
Um,
and Sex in the City.
been playing.
I know he's in it. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, John
Mhm.
Corbett. Barnes. Yeah, I recognized him right off,
I don't even know that character in the movie.
I
I
don't either.
I remember it in the movie, but I
Of
just
all the
can't
people that's in this is
That's who you remember was John Corbett.
This freaking
well,
idiot
I mean,
That's
that his
funny.
name's Barnes.
Well, and then Wyatt Earp the third
Wyatt Earp the third's in
is
it.
actually in this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of
And
that's kind of cool.
Kurt Russell said that
Mhm.
he, um, developed a kinship with him and consulted with him a lot during it. And I didn't really realize he was in there either
Yeah.
until,
He was a
um,
fifth cousin of Wyatt Earp.
yeah.
Mhm.
And then Charlton Heston.
Yes, as
Henry Hooker.
I mean, just small part, but boom, there's Charlton Heston all of a
you're
sudden.
watching the movie. There's
Yeah.
Moses.
Thomas Hayden Church.
You
I
know?
mean, in the western. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's just endless.
And the
So many.
who was that's got the sheriff? Harry Carey.
Harry Carey Jr.
Harry Carey Jr. Fred White.
Who was,
Yeah.
in John Wayne westerns and
Mhm.
stuff when he
He
was
wasn't
younger.
a sheriff. He was a marshal.
Oh well,
The
okay,
Marshall Fred White.
whatever.
Yeah. Mhm.
Who else?
Mhm.
Oh, Michael Roker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He,
McMaster.
yeah. I mean, just, and then of course,
And Johnny Ringo. I mean,
Dana Delaney.
Dana Delaney.
Yeah, she was my least favorite.
She
character.
was me too. Honestly, I did.
I always thought of Tombstone that was the one thing about the movie that I didn't like. It was so over the top, kind of. It was too dramatic, too Hollywood.
Too much
With
Hollywood
her, yeah.
maybe in it for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say of the movie, my least favorite character was her.
Mhm.
Was her, yeah.
Yeah, nothing against her performance.
No,
or
I mean
anything.
she's a
she
great
was-
actress,
Yeah,
but
but
it just
I just didn't like the way they.
Maybe her character.
Because every time she would come on there, they'd show Wyatt and they'd play this.
Funny
their
music,
eyes would
yeah,
meet,
Yeah, you know
yeah.
that's not how.
No, and it
Yeah.
just, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And then of course, Bill Paxton, and let's
Yeah.
talk about Sam Elliott.
Well, how can
Yeah.
you not?
I mean,
You only give like Bill Paxton a little, and then you just jump to Sam Elliott.
well, it's Sam
Yeah.
Elliott,
Mhm.
Usually if Sam Elliott's in it, it's
Sam
gonna be
Elliott
good.
was Virgil and Bill Paxton was Morgan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the Morgan Earp character in this movie was my second least.
Really?
Yeah,
Why?
I don't know. He just seemed
He seemed
mousy.
he seemed different than the other Earps.
Just, yeah.
Didn't he? I mean,
yeah, but actually, in reality, Morgan Earp was different than the
well,
other.
yeah.
He was more likable. He
Yeah.
was more affable, I guess you could say.
I just didn't see him as a.
Well,
He
he
was
was
more
a
outgoing.
follower.
Well,
He
Yeah.
would follow the
Yeah.
brothers. I
Yeah.
backed my brother's play.
Well, he was
I mean,
always outgoing though too.
Yeah.
He was very
Yeah.
outgoing,
Mhm.
and that's true. Whereas Wyatt was very, introverted and kind of
Yeah.
kept to himself and didn't
Mhm.
talk a lot, didn't joke a lot.
Yeah.
And then there's Powers Booth.
Yeah.
Right.
I
I
mean,
thought
he
he
did
was great.
fantastic.
I thought he was great in
I
that
don't think
movie.
anybody could have done it better than him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He did a
Curly Bill.
great job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
that laugh of his and that
yeah,
look. I mean,
Well, that's the thing
it's
about the
really
movie
good.
that was good too. It was serious. It had serious
Sure.
things, but it had some comedic
Hmm.
stuff
Yeah. Oh
with
yeah.
Curly. He was fun,
Yep.
and
And Holiday had that weird sense of humor.
oh yeah,
You know.
yeah,
He said, "Where's Wyatt? Oh, he's down walking on water."
yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
yeah.
always some little
Well,
remark.
Yeah.
and when Billy Bob Thornton's character Johnny Tyler
Hmm.
comes out because Wyatt had just beat the heck out of him, or slapped him,
Hmm.
and he was coming out to get him with the
Yeah.
shotgun, and Doc says, "All right, Johnny Tyler, what are you doing with that shotgun?" And so then he's like, "Doc, and so then Doc Holliday and Wyatt and Virgil Morgan started having a conversation, and
Mhm.
Doc Holliday says, "Why, Johnny, I apologize. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Forgot you were there.
Forgot you were there."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it did
And I
have,
think Holiday was a little bit like that too.
yeah,
I
yeah.
really do. I think his personality was a little bit
Well,
like
they
that.
said when he was sober,
Hmm.
he could be a good guy, but
Yeah.
when he get
Yeah.
drunk, he
Hmm.
could be one of the meanest
Hmm.
SOBs
And
around.
when Holiday came up there in the first scene, Virgil looked at him, and you could tell Virgil didn't really wasn't really happy that he was there.
Hmm.
Right.
Wyatt and Doc had kind of
A special
sure
bond.
a bond,
A
but
friendship.
Virgil didn't like that because most people didn't like Holiday.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
Virgil
know,
knew that there was going to be trouble surrounded
yeah.
Doc
Well,
Holliday.
Hmm.
it always followed him.
Yeah, wherever he
Hmm.
went, there was
Right.
always some kind of
Hmm.
trouble
Yeah, and I mean, you
with
could
Doc.
see it in his eyes when they panned through there that
Hmm.
Morgan shook his hand, and then Virgil kind of gave him that look.
Like, hey,
Yeah, well,
I
here we
got,
Yeah.
go. Yeah,
here we
Yeah.
go.
yeah,
But
he was right.
they came to Tombstone just to find fortune and
Mm.
fortune and glory, I guess, or just
Mm.
to
Well, I
settle
think they
down.
wanted
And
to be away from the
they
law.
wanted to get
They were
away from
tired
all
of
of
that
it.
way. They
Yeah.
wanted more of a normal kind of life, make some
They
money,
just wanted
and
to have fun and gamble,
but
and
they can't. They just couldn't get away from it.
and I think Virgil was the one that he was seeing how out of control the town.
Yeah, Virgil's the one that had the empathy for
You
the
could
people.
well you could tell he in his eyes and his you could tell he wanted.
Well, that's the way this movie portrayed.
Right.
Well, I
But
know, but we're talking about the movie.
right,
Yeah.
I know, but
Hmm.
that's not. I don't know if
That may
that's
not be
really.
how it
I
really
think
Yeah.
that's
happened, but
because every movie that's been made about the gunfight at OK Corral, they exaggerate, embellish stuff, and Hollywood. They put.
sure.
I mean, because you can't keep everything historically accurate,
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's
but
got to be entertaining.
each one does something a little different.
Yeah.
I think that really though probably the realistic portrayal of Wyatt Earp was the Kevin Costner
Oh,
19,
100%,
1994. I think
100%
it
agree.
followed it,
Hmm.
even though it did have some Hollywood stuff in it
Sure.
and some embellishments. It followed his life a little bit
Hmm.
closer, but
Yeah.
it went through his own life where this just is focusing on the gunfight at the
And
OK Corral and
Tombstone
Tombstone.
itself. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, I've read books about Wyatt Earp and biographies on Doc Holliday, and I think then when you see the movie, your mind goes back to those things that the way the books portrayed him,
Hmm.
and the movie isn't quite like that.
They're always
And
different.
so
Yeah.
it always kind of messed with my mind a little bit. I couldn't just sit down and just enjoy the movie because I'd always go back and think, well, I don't know if he would have really done that. And
Hmm.
I wish I could just block that out and enjoy the movie for what it was. But I had a little trouble separating that.
So, who's your favorite character in Tombstone? In this movie, who was your favorite?
Oh wow. Um, you know, I really liked Ike.
Really?
I think Ike did a great job. I
Stephen Lang.
mean,
Stephen
uh,
Lang.
being
Well,
half drunk and being a smart ass and being
Yeah.
tough, but then when it really come down to it, he cowered.
Right.
But I just think I think he did a great job, and I think that's probably kind of the way Ike Clanton really was.
Right. That
Yeah.
one of the things I liked about his portrayal of Clinton is especially when he thought he got cheated when he goes up and he says, "Goddamn pimps," you know, he said, "You're all in," when he calls them goddamn pimps. You know, the way he does that line is so funny.
Or the one where he says, "We don't have no law around here, law dogs."
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and why?
I mean,
Yeah, I heard you the first time.
Right?
I read somewhere that they actually let him drink before he would do his part. In certain parts where he was supposed to be drunk, they would actually let him get drunk because
Really?
it would make him just be so much more believable.
More
Yeah.
And I
obnoxious.
thought that's pretty good. So I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, I know that's
So
probably not somebody most people would pick, but
right, right.
I think he did a great job playing Ike.
How about you, Stacy?
That's hard for me. It has to be between Wyatt and Doc, and
I said pick a
I
favorite.
know, I know. I guess I would have to say Doc
Doc
Holliday,
Holliday.
Val Kilmer.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he put so much in the character acting wise,
Uh-huh.
um, believable, and you really kind of liked him. But it was interesting for me to see how much him and Johnny Ringo were similar. They were alike. They were on different sides, but they were so alike. They were both
Yeah.
educated, and you remember the scene in the
Yeah.
in the bar where
Uh-huh.
Doc starts talking Latin, and then Johnny Ringo answers him back in Latin. So they're both very.
Well, Doc says there's something about you, and he said I see it in the eyes.
You remind
Remind me
me
of
of
me.
me, yeah.
Yeah, and so they both knew that.
And they were both really great
Yeah.
gunfighters and
Hmm.
So
stuff.
what?
But I think Doc Holliday was just absolutely my
Yeah.
favorite.
That kind of gives you a little insight of what Doc thought of himself too.
Sure it
Mm-hmm.
did.
You know,
Yeah.
he kind of had a
Hmm.
hatred of himself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what his life
He
had become.
maybe he really didn't like that part of
Right.
his life.
That's
But
why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
He's kind of giving you a little hint
mhm.
that I don't like myself. I don't like the
Yeah.
way I am.
Well, and another thing when Wyatt asked him what makes a guy like Johnny Ringo, what
What
makes him
motivates him?
right,
What?
right, and he said, well, he's angry because he's been born.
Right.
So
yeah.
it's like there's not really one thing. He
He's
just
got a
was
void.
born with
He
it.
can never kill too much. He can never
No,
steal too much.
no,
He's trying to fill a
fill a
void.
void that can never be filled.
Mm-hmm.
Fill.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite, Scott?
My favorite's Big Nose Kate.
Of course.
Joanna Packla.
Oh
She's
my
so
gosh.
freaking hot in this. I can't even stand it. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know why we asked her.
I tell you what, that European gal. I mean, she's from Poland, and she is just smoking hot.
Mm.
If I was Doc, I would have never left her side. Tell you that I wouldn't give a shit if Wyatt was going out to fight whoever. Nope.
Well,
I'm not,
I
Oh,
can't say I'm
I'm up in the room
surprised
with
by
Big
that.
Nose.
yeah,
At least that one, not the real one, but
yeah,
her. Oh yeah,
yeah.
she's definitely my favorite.
Some of those pictures from the 1800s, some of them women were pretty rough.
Yeah. I want the
Pretty
Joanna
rough.
Pacula, Big Nose Kate. Yeah.
Wow, that's one. Well, I kind of can see that from you, but
I'll give you a little insight on this movie. When I first saw it, I was down at Fort McClellan, Alabama, visiting a sergeant that was my squad leader in Germany, Sergeant Morris, and him and another sergeant were down there, Sergeant Ingleton. We met, and we all were going to the movie theater, and they wanted to go see The Pelican Brief with Julia Roberts.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I had already seen it, and I'm like, no, I don't want. And they begged me, come on, go in with us. Tombstone was playing, and I'm like, no, I'm going to go see. I want to see that movie. And I went in there by myself and watched it, and I was just floored.
yeah.
When I came out of there, I was just like, wow, that was such a great Western. I was really taken by the whole thing. I mean, everybody was laughing when Doc would do his antics, and
Oh yeah.
then Kurt Russell just jumped off the screen at,
Yeah, I did.
you know, in the gunfight. And then when Charlton Heston shows up as Henry Hooker,
Yeah.
and at the very beginning, you got Robert Mitchum narrating.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I read about him. He was supposed to play Ike Clanton's father.
Oh, really?
But he was kind of sickly at the time.
Oh.
And so he ended up. They just ended up kind of cutting that character, and he became the narrator.
Well, that would have been interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been. It would have been
Been
interesting
really
to see
good.
Robert Mitchum.
Another big
Another
name.
Another
another
legend.
legend,
Wow.
legendary. I mean, you can't.
This movie's just
I
full
mean,
of it.
you
Now, were there any awards won
I'm not sure.
on
I'm
this
sure.
movie?
I'm not sure if that. I
I
mean,
can't remember.
this is the kind of movie that doesn't
But
generally
well, no,
win awards,
yeah.
and stuff like that. But I mean, and that's the way it goes with the Academy. Usually, the ones that are um, popular and stuff like that,
They don't
they don't
win.
win the
Yeah.
awards.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I really liked the scene where they're in the bar and Doc and Ringo are kind of going back and forth like we talked about with the
Mm-hmm.
Latin and stuff, and then Ringo does that whole fancy thing with his gun twirling around and
Yeah.
stuff. And just
It's
an
impressive.
iconic scene, and so Doc takes his little proper cup that he
Mm.
has his liquor
Well,
in and starts doing the same thing with it. It was just
there was that spot where Johnny finished his thing, and then everybody's eyes are on Doc.
because what's he
They
gonna
don't
do?
know what he's gonna do.
Yeah,
I mean, is this gonna get really bad or what's gonna happen?
what's
And
gonna
he
happen?
just pulls that cup out.
That cup
And I
out.
mean, it's just a classic.
And just
part.
mimics the same thing,
I
and it
mean,
was
he
just
couldn't have been any better.
and
That
it was just
fantastic.
it was amazing. I love that scene.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that was really funny.
that was great.
And Michael Biehn uh, flipping that gun around. I mean, he said it took him a while. He
Oh,
had
I
to
bet it'd
he had
take a
to
long time.
practice with that over and over and
Oh,
over
I
again.
bet.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but it was just a great film.
I also is this the part correct me if I'm wrong, is this the part where they go to the shootout at the OK Corral and and Virgil says we don't want this.
Right, right.
Yeah.
We don't want this bloodshed. We don't want it.
Mhm.
But the best part of that scene for me is when um Billy Clanton looks at Doc Holliday, and Doc Holliday gives him that little wink. And if the camera pans at Kurt Russell's face, and he says, "Oh my God," because he knows
That's the Hollywood
that's
part
it.
there.
It's
Yeah.
gonna happen. It's gonna be a bloodshed. But I love that Doc Holiday
Yeah.
when he did that. You knew it was coming.
Kurt
Yeah.
read what was going to happen. He could
Yeah,
see. Wyatt was
well,
always Wyatt. There's a. Uh, Remember when Billy Zane is describing to Dana Delaney
Yeah.
quintessential
yeah.
Western figure, the
Mhm.
tall and thin
Mhm.
figure with the eyes closed by
Closed by the
sun,
sun.
but sharp as a hawk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what Wyatt his eyes were
Oh,
like that.
absolutely.
He's
Mhm.
he was watching,
Always reading the room.
reading the room,
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
reading the room.
And that's another
Definitely.
Well, that comes from all those years in those towns.
and that's another character that's in the movie is Billy Zane. I mean,
Yeah. Oh
he
yeah.
Yeah.
was good
Yeah.
as
Titanic.
Yeah,
He was the
yeah.
thespian
he
that
was
comes in
just
there and
the
puts on the
good
show.
looking actor that
Yeah.
comes in, plays the
Mhm.
actor, but he
And
was
then Jason Priestley's got a
Yeah.
thing for him.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
That's kind of weird.
90210.
Brandon Walsh, come on.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
like,
Well, that's what I
Any
said.
minute I thought Luke Perry would
You just
show
don't
up.
know who's showing up. I mean,
remember they said, "What do you think of him, Billy?" He said, "I think
Love
he's
it.
wonderful." You know,
He's all teary eyed.
and Paris Booth is like, you know,
he knows.
he's all laughing. Paris Booth is all laughing and shit. That's what was so. Paris Booth with that laugh. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
he was
And then you got to think Marshall Wyatt is, Harry Carey Jr.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about a guy that had become a
He does
legend, who had
everything.
played, whose father was not only a legendary
Oh yeah.
actor
Mhm.
from the beginning of the film industry, Harry Carey
Mhm.
Sr. I mean, he
Mhm.
started when the film was in silent movies.
Mm-hmm.
And then for Harry Carey Jr., he played in a lot of John Wayne movies.
Mhm.
And for him to kind of come full circle,
Kind of come
Yeah.
back.
come
in a
back
way.
here, and
Yeah.
to see him in another Western was
Mhm.
really, I thought was really interesting. Really, and it was a good part for
For
him
him
to
it was
have.
a real good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And Buck Taylor,
Buck Taylor from
from
Gunsmoke.
Gunsmoke, he was
Mhm.
newly from Gunsmoke,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
for him to, which Buck Taylor has had a phenomenal career
Yeah,
himself.
he played Turkey Creek Jack Johnson.
Yeah, and there's just like Robert said earlier, every time
Every
you turn around,
scene
you're
is
like,
somebody
you
new.
know
You're
who
like,
that
wait a minute.
is? Who's that guy?
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they just you don't usually have a movie that has that many known people in it.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
you
I
know,
can't hardly
Scott,
think of any of them, any other movie that has had that many,
that many, yeah. But
especially nowadays.
it Scott had said to me when we were talked about coming on this podcast, Scott had said this was a man's movie.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. I mean, it really is. But there's a lot of female characters in
Oh
there.
yeah, there are.
There's Maddie.
Why don't you just call me a sexist jerk?
Didn't, but you did say it was a man's movie.
Well,
But there were some female cast members in there. There was the Kurt Russell's Wyatt Earp's girlfriend Maddie and Dana Delaney, Josephine, and then there was Morgan and
I mean, they all had wives.
they all,
Allie and-
but the women of that era, they had to be strong
yeah,
women.
You
they
bet
knew
they
their
would.
place too.
They had to be
Well,
strong
they had
women to deal with them.
It was a different time,
I
but
mean, all
They
these,
had their
but,
place in this
come
movie
on,
too.
all these men, all these men, all they did was
Yeah.
get drunk, shoot
Yeah.
one another.
That's not
Yeah.
true.
Oh,
That's not true.
Gamble.
please, gamble.
Are
you
you
know.
kidding?
They had to be strong women to
Yeah.
deal with all
well,
that.
and to make the trip to Tombstone.
Yeah.
Hey, it was a hard
I
time.
mean, it's
Those
very
men,
hard
Those
time.
men had to go out
Mhm.
and find the water, and they had to
I didn't
protect
say
against
that,
bandits and
but
stuff.
you had
Well,
just as equally
Women had a
strong
part
women.
too. They had
Yeah.
a part in it too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So there were some female characters in
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
that added to the
Oh,
story.
yeah.
But like we said earlier, the Dana Delaney character,
Well,
I could have done without,
Let's face
honestly.
it,
Yeah.
their wives that were whores. That's where
Yeah.
that's where they met their wives. A lot of them were working prostitutes.
Mhm.
That's true.
Maddie, I mean,
That's
Excuse
true.
my language.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
true. That's true.
yeah.
But hey, it's hard
Girls
work.
got to make a living
It's
too.
hard work being a whore.
I mean, look at
look
at
Especially back then.
I mean, look
I mean,
at
can you imagine
Yeah.
living that lifestyle in those
Mhm.
with those cowboys coming into town and stuff,
Oh,
and you're
yeah.
a working
I mean-
prostitute? The kind of
How
things that
stinky and dirty.
Well,
them
not
guys
only
would
that,
be.
I mean, there wasn't really any, like in Unforgiven, there
well,
wasn't
there's not a
any.
lot of protection for you.
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
if a cowboy said this whore tried to take my coke,
Yeah.
and they would probably
Believe him.
Believe him.
Mm.
There wasn't very
No.
the women's rights
Were not.
no,
there was,
it's not-
especially out west.
not a thing.
Yeah.
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 But they were some tough
Oh,
guys. 'Cause
you
they
bet.
had to shoot and they had to protect
Mhm.
themselves and
Mhm.
you know
Hollywood, they want to portray women, having the makeup on and all that. Back then, there wasn't
There
none of
wasn't
that.
No,
Back then. They
no.
were rough.
No, they.
I mean, you might have had some more back east,
Mhm.
but when you come out west, it's got a little bit.
Well,
different.
that's
Yeah.
probably like why when Dana Delaney shows up,
She's coming from
he's
the
not.
east.
Yeah, she's not from there,
Mhm.
and
Right.
so it caught Wyatt's eye.
Right. Well, that's a good point.
You
That's a
know.
good point. He's like,
Mhm.
hey,
She's made up, got the fancy clothes, and she's not,
You looking-
weathered by the
You're
sun.
looking over at Maddie. What the hell? What the hell?
Yes,
sir.
Right, and so
We got this hottie that just stepped
Yeah.
off.
Mhm.
So, but also with the movie, I think the turning point with the movie was when, spoiler alert, but when Morgan.
Stacy, this movie came out in 1993.
If they haven't watched
If
it
they
by
haven't
now,
watched
that's
it
their
by
fault.
now, there's no spoiler alert.
That when Morgan was killed,
Mhm.
that was a turning point, and I just remember Powers Booth, man, after Morgan got killed and Wyatt had him on that wagon and they were
Oh,
pulling
yeah.
away and he said it's over, we're done, we
Yeah.
don't want no more, basically we don't want no more bloodshed. And Johnny Ringo, and it was Johnny Ringo that said, "Smells like somebody died."
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Smell
was-
that, Bill?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Like
even
somebody died.
even Curly Bill went, Jesus.
Yeah, he was
Jesus,
like,
Johnny.
I can't believe it.
He just,
I mean-
he just,
He just
I mean,
said
they
that.
were just bastards.
Yeah.
They-
You know?
yeah. And then you were like, okay, this is
Mhm.
well, after that scene, you knew
Yeah,
this
this is what
this
you
is
were
going to
watching
come back
for.
full circle.
Yeah,
You remember-
Here we go.
at the beginning of the movie when Doc sticks that guy with the knife.
Mm-hmm.
You know who that guy is, don't you?
Oh.
He sticks with the knife.
I don't
It's
remember.
Sylvester Stallone's brother.
brother, Frank
Oh, okay,
Stallone.
Craig Stallone. I
Yeah.
forgot
See,
about that.
it's
Yeah,
just
it's well,
always somebody coming up.
and then I want to also mention Pedro Armendez. Armendez. I don't know how to pronounce that.
And he was the
Armendez.
preacher
Armendez
Yeah.
Jr. He was the priest. You know who that is, Stacey?
at the very
Mm-hmm.
beginning. Yeah.
That guy's father, senior Pedro Armendez Sr. was in The Three Godfathers with John Wayne and Harry Carey Jr.
Oh, wow.
This guy's dad
Mhm.
was in with Harry Carey Jr. and John Wayne in The Three
Isn't that
Godfathers.
Wow,
crazy?
that's
And he was also
unbelievable.
in
Wow.
Fort Apache. Remember, he's the one that rides out when they go out to talk to the Indian.
Uh-huh.
The guy
That's
that
his
was
dad.
that's his dad.
Oh my God, that's
Well,
unbelievable.
this guy is that guy's son.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
his dad is the one that was.
But it's like there's several ties with the
Oh
cast
yeah.
of
Oh yeah.
what I love about
Mhm.
it is like we talked about it ties back to the old era of westerns. What I was talking
Right.
about at the first of the podcast was that area of western had died
Yeah.
out. So now they're
Mhm.
bringing this huge cast and
Yeah.
bringing those connections. I thought that
Then
was
you
really
got
great.
Robert Mitchum's son, Christopher Mitchum, was a ranch hand, just an extra
Just
ranch,
there.
just
Yeah.
there.
Wow.
Yeah.
You
Mhm.
know, I mean, because I imagine when they got announced that they were going to make this movie, every Western actor, whoever
All wanted to
wanted to
be
be.
in. Sure.
The one thing I'm surprised that they didn't have Ben Johnson come and
Yeah, that's
do
Mm.
true.
something
Yeah.
in here.
I just remember my dad loved this movie, and
Oh
he
yeah.
always and my
Mhm.
dad after this movie, every time you would say
Oh
something to
no.
my dad, he'd say,
Mhm.
"I'm your Huckleberry."
Huckleberry.
He said
Yeah,
it
he
how
said it
many
all-
times?
yeah, he'd say that. He goes, "Well, I'm your Huckleberry," and he would say it just like that, just to jack with you.
Yeah.
You know.
My dad
Oh
always
man.
quoted this movie, and I just
Uh-huh.
remember watching this
Mhm.
movie with my dad and him going, "It's Moses.
Yeah.
Where did Moses come from?
It's
Moses,
Moses has got a ranch."
he's
Yeah.
taking care of Doc Holliday.
You know, and so
Yeah.
this movie
Mhm.
kind of reminds me of my dad because he loved it so
Yeah,
much.
sure does.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you got a guy that played the mayor, Terry O'Quinn. He played
Mhm.
in those stepfather movies, those kind of slasher type, where the stepfather was the killer and stuff.
Hmm.
He's been in a lot of movies,
Mhm.
done a lot of good things.
But I think another good scene in the movie is when, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's when Virgil gets shot, loses the use of his arm, and he gets, is that the part where he gets on the train to leave and Kurt
Well,
Russell has that big speech?
well, yeah. I mean, well,
That was
that was
afterwards.
after
Yeah.
you're kind of
Mhm.
jumping. I mean, it was, because the way that in the movie Virgil gets shot in the arm,
Yeah.
loses the use of his arm. Then it goes and it shows Morgan get
Morgan
killed.
getting killed.
And
Okay.
then later on, then you have them driving the wagon up saying it's over and stuff.
Yeah.
They go to the Tucson to the train station.
Yeah.
And that's when Frank Stillwell's there.
Stillwell, and they say.
And Ike Clan are there to kill him, and Wyatt kills Stillwell.
Yeah. And then he
And
just.
then Virgil kind of waves at him from the train as they're going down. And actually,
Mhm.
in the real thing, Wyatt Earp, he didn't just shoot Frank Stillwell one time.
He blew him into.
I mean,
You couldn't recognize him.
Like not only shot him, but he shot him. They said he was the most shot up man
They had ever seen.
Wow.
Because
So he was out of ammo.
Yeah, I mean,
He was just so angry.
which they showed in Wyatt
And the
Earp.
original, the Kevin Costner
Yeah,
Wyatt Earp.
this one they didn't really
Yeah,
go
no.
into. But see, with Morgan, when Morgan was killed, Wyatt Earp changes.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Oh,
now,
yeah.
now
You could tell that.
now he's
Yeah.
pissed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's not just pissed. He's like gone into a
Mhm.
different mode.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
And there's been I think two times in his life that
Yeah.
he did that.
Mhm.
One when his wife Urilla died. And this is just a little history of why.
And the unborn baby.
And his
Yeah.
unborn
Yeah.
baby, he kind of went nuts and
Mhm.
Went on that
when-
rampage and
where
got
he's drunk and
drunk and
stuff.
just.
And then when Morgan gets killed, he finally has a reason to seek this justice, this revenge at no cost. He just
Right.
it's like he goes into a different mindset.
But like
Mhm.
Urilla, when Urilla died, he didn't have anybody to take it out on.
Right.
because it was just.
So he turned it into
yeah,
himself.
it went inside.
Now
But
we're
when
kind of
Morgan,
going into
sure,
his life and not this movie.
but when Morgan died, that all comes out.
Right.
And I think some of that was from earlier in his life.
Right.
That anger and bitterness and
Well,
resentment and hurt.
And they
all
had put
comes
up
out.
with so much in Tombstone when they got there, all this stuff, and that again, just he just had it, and
Yeah.
that scene, that was a great scene in the movie, acting by Kurt Russell. I thought.
Oh yeah.
Tell him that hell's coming.
Yeah. You tell him I'm coming.
Yeah, I'm coming.
And hell's coming with me.
Yeah.
And he had that fire in his eyes. That
what a great actor.
And really, that's what he's doing. He's portraying what Johnny Ringo was talking about at the very beginning of the movie. And behold, the man on a pale horse.
Yeah.
Because the priest was quoting the Bible, saying somebody was going to come to revenge.
Death rides on the pale horse.
Yeah.
And hell follows with him.
Yeah.
And so then
that's what
he's.
Yeah.
It's tying that together.
It's tying that together.
And then after that, when they started going after the cowboys, the guys with the red bandanas or sash, right?
Yeah.
And that scene, like at the river or something.
Yeah, right.
Now that's where everybody, like, they started shooting at Wyatt Earp, but he never got hit.
No.
Well, he jumps up.
Yeah.
And goes
after Curly Bill.
And they're shooting at him. Yeah, goes after Curly Bill. And everybody's shooting at him, and no bullets are hitting him.
Yeah.
And even Curly Bill's like, "You son of a bitch!"
Yeah.
He couldn't believe
He
it.
couldn't believe it.
And he just hit that shotgun.
No. And he just.
That's a great.
And he really did kill Curly Bill, Wyatt Earp.
He did.
He really did.
Yeah.
That's factual.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
crazy.
But then you get the other turning point in the movie is when Doc Holliday, he's real sick. You think he's sick, and Wyatt's going out to meet Johnny Ringo to confront him.
Yeah.
And Doc gets there first. And they have this little banter back and forth.
That may or may not be factual.
I'm Huckleberry.
Yeah,
that's a Hollywood.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much a Hollywood.
And he
thing.
said,
but it's a fun scene.
because
it is a good scene because he said, my
it's very dramatic.
fight's not with you, Holiday, and he said, well, that's just my fight is for blood.
He said,
kind of.
He said, I beg the differ.
Yes, yeah.
He said, remember,
that's just my game.
Johnny Ringo said, well, I was just
joking, just fooling.
Yeah,
and he said, I wasn't. Yeah. And then they shoot.
But Holiday had confronted him earlier on in the movie too, like, "Hey, let's finish this."
Right. Well,
when Johnny was drunk in the street,
he wanted the blood.
Yeah, he wanted the blood after the killing.
Curly Bill grabbed him and wouldn't let him do it.
And then when they drew on each other, and of course Doc Holliday was faster and shot him in the head, and Johnny starts stumbling, and he says, "You're no Daisy. You're no Daisy at all."
Come on. He's like, and
that's the Hollywood.
But and see, there's another turning point because Doc takes the badge off. He said, "My hypocrisy only goes so far."
Yeah.
And that's another turning point because Doc said, "Let's finish this." And then they start playing, and they go and finish that.
But in that scene where Doc and Johnny Ringo are walking around, and he's saying, "Say when."
Yeah.
And
the camera's
panning. And then they stop. And when they stop, if you watch, I mean, Johnny Ringo's eyes go dead.
Right.
They literally go dead.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you make your eyes do that.
Yeah.
I think there's got to be something wrong with you.
That's Michael Biehn.
I'm telling you,
can do that.
There's a little something wrong with him.
Yeah.
Because most people cannot get dead eyes, and that guy gets dead eyes right before that shooting.
Yeah.
You need to watch that.
It's like he loses all expression. Yeah. It's like a whole.
I call them dead eyes.
It's almost like something has possessed him, taken him over.
It reminds me of
really
what I heard you say on a different thing was you said that the directors let the actors act, and the camera will catch those small little intimate details.
And those make or break something.
And it works.
And I mean, those dead eyes are just...
Well, and that's all Michael Biehn, not the director, because Michael Biehn hated that director.
He did.
Oh, they got in... He only said 4 words to the director,
Oppenheimer.
and he told him to go F himself. Yeah,
Really?
he told Michael Biehn told him to, because Michael Biehn said if he was talking to like Kurt Russell, Sam Elliott, Bill, he was cool with him, but he treated extras and the crew members like shit. Like he would be given directions and say, "Hey, tell the girl with the big tits to move her ass over this way or that way,"
Oh,
and that pissed Michael
he
Biehn
didn't
off.
like
He
He
that.
didn't
didn't
like
like
that.
that.
He
He
didn't
didn't
like
like
the way he
Interesting.
treated other
somebody
people.
treat. And see, they brought that director on. There was I can't remember who was first directing that. I should have looked that up. I couldn't remember who was first. They ended up firing him. Then they brought this guy on
Oh, okay.
because Kurt was kind of friendly with this director and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But and a lot of people said really Kurt Russell is the one who kind of mostly directed the way
A
this
lot of
film
it.
Oh,
Yeah.
film went.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's very. There's a little tidbit.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I just
Yeah.
watched a
very interesting.
podcast with Michael Bihn's got his own podcast too.
Oh, he does.
Mhm.
I'd like to watch
Yeah, it's really good. And he
Mm-hmm.
talks about aliens and different things he did with Bill Paxton. He talks about Bill Paxton a lot. They were
Yeah.
good friends.
Mm-hmm.
But because sadly Bill Paxton passed
He's
away
gone
from
too.
heart operation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of sad.
Well, when we were watching the movie earlier today, a little bit of it, and you just can't believe Val Kilmer's gone.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, and
I
that,
mean, it
that
doesn't seem right.
I was when I got a text
Yeah.
from Dave about that, and I was just really shocked. I mean, not so shocked because he had been battling throat cancer.
Yeah, I
but
mean, he had some health issues and
but,
things.
but like I said this in comments about him on Facebook. Like Tom Cruise and Val Kilmer, you grew up kind of watching these guys. At least our age, we grew up watching these guys.
yeah. Yeah.
And when somebody like Val Kilmer ends up passing away, it's almost like we lose a little bit of our youth.
Yeah.
Oh,
Or a little
very
bit of our
much.
youth
Yeah.
is gone now because we
Mhm.
grew up with
them.
with these
Yeah,
guys,
well,
even though we don't know them,
Right.
but they at least with people that are into film and cinema,
They brought so much.
They're part of your life,
And we've
especially.
watched this movie, I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, since
Oh,
1993.
and
so many times
and-
that.
Going back to Val Kilmer is he has played he's one of those actors that can play such a variety of character, and he immerses himself into that character like he did with Doc Holliday.
Well,
and
and I was reading on Yahoo today, just kind of a little biography of him, what he did, and they really didn't highlight this movie at all.
Really?
Yeah,
that's
That's very
unfortunate.
now
'cause
now that's just one article on it, but
That's somebody who wrote an article that doesn't know what they're doing.
right,
yeah,
because
exactly. Because this is
this was big.
This was one of his
Oh,
greatest roles.
He'll always be remembered for playing Doc
always,
Holliday.
always.
In my mind, you will.
Which-
Because when you think of Doc Holliday on film, everybody thinks of Val Kilmer.
Right.
Mm.
And let's talk about the death scene. Since we're on Val Kilmer in Tombstone, the death of Doc Holliday, that scene was even harder to watch now
Well, yeah.
because of what happened.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
I read that Val Kilmer, so Doc Holliday is dying of tuberculosis, and Wyatt Earp comes to visit him. And Wyatt Earp, has visited him while he was in the hospital. But Val Kilmer had them pour ice, all kinds of ice, underneath his sheet in his bed for that scene, so he would really be in pain and show the what the death scene and how he's hurting and he wanted it to be really
That's probably a good idea.
wanted it to be authentic
Right.
as authentic as it could be, and that seems so
Well,
sad.
maybe he should learn how to act, and then he wouldn't know how to put himself through that.
I think he was okay with the acting, Scott.
I mean, Lawrence Olivier said,
No,
"What the hell?"
but that just shows how much he put into the characters, that he wanted the audience to really feel for that, and the friendship that him and Wyatt had, and he finally told Wyatt, "I don't want you coming back here no
Just
more.
leave. If
Just
you ever
go.
cared for me at all,
If
to
you're
leave."
ever my friend."
That's Hollywood.
Yeah.
It is, but
is.
it was
That's probably not
Because
the
him and
path.
I think
No.
him and
From
Wyatt
what-
Earp had a fallen out before.
Towards the end.
Towards the
Yeah.
end,
They did.
I don't know what
Wyatt
about.
wasn't there when he died.
Right.
yeah. But as far as the movie goes, it
Yeah.
brought those two
Mhm.
characters, full circle, and
Mhm.
it's sad.
Well,
The scene's even more sad now because of the way Val Kilmer died of pneumonia, a
laying
lung
in
a
bed maybe,
a
like that.
lung type disease like
Yeah,
Well, and
you're
tuberculosis.
right.
There's a
It
parallel
is.
there.
Sure
Doc was
is.
surprised he died with his boots off,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know.
and he said, "Oh, that's
And
funny."
actually, when Wyatt was leaving, if you look, he tickles his big toe.
Who does?
Wyatt,
Wyatt?
he
Why?
tickles
Hmm.
Val's big toe as he's leaving. He
Oh,
says,
I don't.
"Goochie, goochie, goochie."
He does
Yeah.
not. I was gonna
Scott.
say I don't remember that. I need to go back and rewatch that.
Yeah. Yeah. He said,
But
"This
look,
little piggy went to the market.
a
This
few
little
years
piggy."
ago, I went to Holiday's grave in Glenwood Springs, and it's kind of
Glenwood
deceiving.
Springs, what?
Colorado.
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 Yeah,
Okay.
me and my girlfriend Cheryl, and it's kind of deceiving because they don't tell you that you got to climb a mountain to go to his grave, but you do. It's a pretty long walk,
Oh wow.
and it was really hot that day.
Mm.
And we had went there. We wanted to go to the springs that they have too and soak in them. It was too hot. We couldn't do it. So we go up this mountain to his grave up there, and it's just nothing exciting really,
Yeah.
But there's a little fence around it, and there's some quarters and chips laying there, and some playing cards and stuff on there.
Wow.
But
Mm.
but later on, we went to a restaurant there, and they have a thing on it on holiday, and it says in there they don't really know where his grave is because he was buried basically penniless, and he was put in like the pauper cemetery or whatever, and then they've lost the records, and they
Where
don't
he's
really
at?
know. They know he's up there on that mountain,
Somewhere.
but
There's.
but they've chosen that spot to put his monument.
Oh
And
wow.
and I remember my girlfriend being mad. She says, "We walked all the way up that thing in this heat. Everything else about fell off that mountain, and that ain't even where he's at."
Robert said, "Get your ass back out there. You're going to go see Doc." Well,
I
and
need
then,
to
I
see
mean,
Doc.
it was pretty cool
That
going
is
there
neat.
and just standing there for a minute
Yeah,
and
that is neat.
and thinking about it.
you
Yeah.
remember when we did our little trip and we went by there and it was at nighttime?
Yeah, it was the middle of the night.
We were gonna go up, but we didn't. We
Yeah.
found this
Oh
gas
no.
station and it's completely quiet. I mean,
Like
just
3 o'clock in the
3
morning.
o'clock in the morning, and I'm yelling, "Kurt Russell, where are you?" Screaming because you screaming. I said, "Come on,
Oh my
Kurt!"
God.
I mean, you could hear me
He's out
screaming.
smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, I'm screaming, "Kurt Russell, Goldie Hawn!" I'm yelling.
Gee, I'm really sorry I missed that one.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was one of our crazy trips. We
Yeah.
rented
Yeah.
a Jeep, and it was
Yeah.
So now, Scott, you actually have been to Tombstone, the real Tombstone,
Yeah,
right?
we both have.
You both have. See, I haven't been to the real
Yeah.
Tombstone.
Yeah.
So
It's I mean, it's a
It's neat.
tourist trap, but
now it is probably more
but they
touristy.
have a really nice museum there.
Yeah.
For all kind of the outlaws and
Mhm.
gunfighters and things. It really is a really cool
It's a neat,
museum.
it's
too.
a neat,
Yeah.
neat town. I mean,
Mhm.
they put on reenactments. They have
Mhm.
a stagecoach you can get
Mhm.
on and ride the
That's
stagecoach.
neat.
If it wasn't for this, Tombstone would be gone. I mean, it would
Yeah,
it
that's
wouldn't even be
that's
around.
that's why I brought it up because I think
Mhm.
this movie kind of brought some new generations on the
Oh,
story.
sure.
Not necessarily though,
About
because before this movie came out, when I was 16 years old, when I first went down there, and that's '86. They still had Tombstone was like
yes,
it's been a tourist attraction for years.
but this movie probably
Brought
brought it
more people for a while,
more to
yeah.
life to it.
Somewhat, I would think.
Oh,
You know? I mean,
shut.
I mean, it's been, you got Old Tucson is actually where it was filmed. Old Tucson was,
I wish
yeah,
that we would have went there
right,
and stopped there, but we
but it
didn't.
was closed on the
Yeah.
weekends. We got there too.
Well,
late.
maybe we should take a road trip.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Well, that's a long trip.
No,
Old Tucson.
no women.
No women.
But-
Now he says no women, and then he claims that I claim that he's sexist. Okay, okay, we'll just
Yeah.
let the audience
Tracy,
decide for that.
You were always trying to, follow me doing things when I was a kid. You got to stay home and take care.
You need to talk about the end of this movie.
What you need to do is take care of my dog while I go on a trip.
No,
because I've heard this ever since the first time you've seen this movie. Every time we see it, you say the same thing about the end of this movie.
Oh, that
It just bugs you to death.
the end of this movie was just horrible. I mean, they run this movie.
Yeah,
They had Kurt Russell and Dana, the lady, out there dancing in the snow. He said, "Hey, I had this dance." You know, I wanted. I'm
and she's rich, and
You know,
I
she
mean,
don't worry why I'm rich, and they're playing this music, and they're going around in circles.
Like in a snow globe.
yeah,
The only good thing about that scene, you had Robert Mitchum come. What? You know, he's like, what? Her died. You
yeah.
know, in some
1929.
29.
It really was kind of a stupid ending.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It
But the
was.
one part I liked it when he goes, at the funeral was early Western movie stars William S. Hart and Tom Mix, and then he goes, Tom Mix wept.
I love that.
Yeah, that's the last part, right?
Yeah.
I'm wondering
But
if
I know the end of that movie bothers you, and you get
I'm
so
wondering
mad
if they
every time.
should have
It was so
if they
weak.
should have just
Yeah,
tied up the ending with Doc's death because he
And-
tells Wyatt go find that,
and then
that
kind
lady.
of say what happened to
I would have
everybody.
rather see Wyatt take her out and then just punch her in the mouth or shoot her.
Oh my
You know,
god!
grew up. He said, "You know what? You left me when I was in Tombstone. Take this." You know,
Oh my
what the-
god!
you know, now go make me a sandwich or
Oh
something.
my god! I did not just hear.
Well, that really wouldn't have been any worse than the ending.
I mean, the ending was just so.
Yeah, it
You know
was.
what it
It
was?
was.
They turned the. I mean, they made it into like a fairy tale.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like
It
come
just
on.
The
it didn't
ending,
fit.
yeah, the ending
fit.
didn't fit
And
the
he-
movie
Hey,
at
I
all.
had this
terrible.
dance.
Yeah.
You know, big old cheesy mustache. You know, I just was like, what are you?
Yeah, I think they should have left it
We
when
cannot
Doc
watch
died.
it without him bitching about
Oh,
that
I
end
just can't
every
stand it.
single time.
Yeah.
And I agree, it is.
I
kinda
agree.
cheesy.
I as a
Very Hollywood.
even as a woman and the love and the drama and all that,
it just is.
it's pretty bad. I
terrible.
thought, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. It's a great movie, but that last part is bad.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if she was in a skimpy outfit, it would have been a little better. I don't
Of
know.
course. Of course.
But it just was. Oh my
Yeah,
god!
it didn't even fit the movie.
No.
No,
Just like a
yeah.
different movie.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I would have rather Ike show up and say, "I'm back, bitches," and start shooting. You know, I mean, you goddamn can't. Hey, law dog, I got your girl, law dog. You goddamn can't. You know. But instead of this,
Yeah, they dance around like a fairy tale.
We're dancing
Like Cinderella.
and Ike jumps in and starts dancing.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
come
it's
on.
bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. That was
But it was a great movie.
It was a
it's
good
Just
movie.
that
great.
very last Hollywood.
It's a very,
Great movie
very
and-
fun, enjoyable.
Yes,
if
and-
you love westerns and you like to, you know, and you're not so stuck on the historical
Yeah,
parts of
Yeah.
stuff.
that's what got me a little bit.
You have to go
So-
in there knowing this is a
And-
Hollywood movie,
Right.
and but it is just loads of fun to watch.
Yeah,
It
and
is.
if you are a Val Kilmer fan,
This
and
is probably one of
this
his
is
best.
one of his
Yeah.
best movies, and you know,
Arguably.
rest in
Yeah,
peace,
yeah.
Val Kilmer, because I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
he gave us some of the greatest
Yeah,
movies
from-
of our
he sure did.
generation.
from
and-
Iceman to
oh man,
Doc Holliday to
The
Jim
Doors.
Morrison as the Doors. You know,
yeah,
and then,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you what, the scene that he does in Top Gun Maverick with between him and Tom
yeah.
Cruise is one of
Mhm.
the best scenes.
the
Yeah.
second one,
The second one. I mean, it makes you want to cry
Makes you-
because you know he can't talk because of the throat cancer and he's typing on a computer.
yeah, you got to let it go.
But then he gets up and he actually speaks.
He actually speaks. Yeah,
And it's really rough to hear him in this, but the chemistry between him and Tom Cruise is just a wonderful scene.
And also,
So-
if you love Val Kilmer, I encourage people to go watch the documentary that he came out with a
Right.
couple of years ago. I watched it.
I haven't yet.
It
but I'd
is
like to.
so good. He has so many home movies from behind the scenes of
Really?
all of his movies,
Wow.
even this one.
Oh wow!
And
Huh.
it is
Wow, that'd be good.
absolutely amazing. Have you not seen it?
No, I never.
Oh my
watched it.
God, Scott! It is
I
so
haven't.
good.
Is he watching Kurt and her dance around?
No, he got
But
rid of that.
he has a video camera that he takes with him on every set.
Oh wow.
Top Gun's on there and all the behind the scenes stuff, little home movies that he's made, Real Genius
You know what would have
on
been
there.
really cool at the end of Tombstone, if she turned into the Thing, like in the Thing where she.
Oh
with Kurt Russell.
my
Yeah, yeah, where
God.
she like pops out and like spreads these spider legs and starts walking around.
Okay,
Well,
we're getting a little
that-
crazy, but
And Kurt's
that
like,
really wouldn't have been any
and
worse.
Kurt's like, "Fuck you, too." You know, I mean, that would have been
but
great. It's the Thing, bitches. You know, I mean,
but okay. Anyways,
That's why he's not
Go-
directing anything.
go watch the Val Kilmer documentary.
Yeah.
He has his son that actually does the narration as himself. His son's voice sounds a lot like him. In fact, his children were in the Maverick too. At Iceman's funeral, they'll show Iceman's wife and the two older kids. Those were really Val Kilmer's kids.
oh, really?
But his son does the narration on the whole documentary, and it's phenomenal. Yeah,
Okay.
I could not stop watching it.
I think
So
there's
good.
some movies that, okay, you're at home Sunday evening or whatever, and you're just flipping through the stations, going, okay, and then you see Tombstone, you stop.
You stop. Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. You just stop.
Yeah.
And wherever you're at in it, you know where it is,
Yeah.
and you watch it. You
That's
can't
true.
just pass by it.
That's
Yeah.
true. And
It's one of those rare movies that every time it's on, you got to at least watch
Sometimes I'll
part
put
of
it on if I'm going to sleep. You know, I'll just
Yeah,
put it
I
on
mean,
Tombstone.
well, and as the female perspective, that's true for me too. If
Here we go.
Well, you have to have a female perspective.
Yeah, that's why
I mean,
Stacey's here.
this is a man's
Sure.
movie.
Here we go.
Yeah.
I'm I'm the
But
same
to
way.
me, that's one of
I
those
will watch it.
few movies, and I'm not a huge movie person,
Yeah.
but I can never just pass it over. I always have to stop and see where it's at and watch it for at least a few minutes of it
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
it draws you in.
Yeah.
So what were you saying about the female?
I was saying the female perspective. I agree. If I'm scrolling through and Tombstone comes on, I'll watch it.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I don't know how many times.
Don't
But-
tell stories.
I'm
You
not.
don't
I've
watch-
seen it.
You don't say.
If
You
I
watch the
hadn't-
Andy Griffith Show.
Hey, if I hadn't
You don't sit
if
there and
I
watch
hadn't
Tombstone.
seen Tombstone so many times, how would I know these
Yeah.
scenes and these lines?
I'll tell you because you grew up around me.
Oh
That's
my!
why.
What a narcissistic ass! No, no.
I'm your Huckleberry.
But you got
Family Feud.
But you got to remember, I grew up with this movie with my dad,
Yes.
and we've had to
Well,
watch it 5 million times. And
Look, I said this on the other podcast. When I would go over to your house, your dad was there on the couch watching a Western. That's what
Always.
he did. I mean, it's just, that's what he did.
so those lines and those scenes absorb into your psyche. Trust me.
Tell them how I want movies to end, Robert. Tell them how I think a Western should
Well,
end.
is it this is a G-rated podcast?
No, just tell them. You tell them how I like the Western or the guy rides off into the.
Well, he always wants to leave the woman behind, turn around, and ride off into the sunset, see the silhouette of the hat, and him fading off into the distance.
He
and
wants
the woman standing on the porch waiting.
he
and he's
wants
gone.
every Western to end
Like
the
Shane.
like the Searchers.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
the
yeah.
way Scott wants
That's
it to
kind
be.
of too.
He did the duty.
Yeah.
He's gone.
He
He's
gets
right
that a
off.
little bit of that from his
And
dad
that music, and that's that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Uh-huh.
likes that where you turn around and you ride away.
Yep.
That's what he likes.
Yep. Yep.
Promise me, Ethan.
You know?
Different movie.
Oh yeah,
Different movie. We'll get to that one day.
Well, I think that's gonna about it. You have anything else to add to Tombstone? Anything that you think we left out, or
I just
No.
think that we mentioned Kurt Russell and the most fantastic actor. He
Oh,
is
yeah.
another one that
Mhm.
can play. He's been acting since he was a little kid in Disney movies.
another one that we grew up?
Another
watching.
one that we
Sure.
grew up. And in
Yeah.
fact, when Walt Disney died, they found a piece of paper on his desk, and the last thing that he wrote on this piece of paper said Kurt Russell.
Really?
And that's it. Nobody
wow,
knows
yeah.
what he had in mind.
Oh no, they finally found
Oh,
out.
they did?
Yeah.
What was it?
He owes me money, bitch.
No! No.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
boy. Yeah.
Kurt Russell, he was a little kid. He was in an Elvis movie. He kicked Elvis in the shin.
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
Kurt Russell's solid. Yeah.
he's just solid. He's just a phenomenal one. He's again is in this small cluster.
well, and he's
one
had
of the
a
greats.
long career. I
One
mean,
of the greats.
long.
Yeah, long career.
Yeah.
So
Okay, well, I guess that's going to do it for our Tombstone 1993 movie. I'm Scott, the creator of the film Crusader, here with my special guest, my sister Stacy, my best friend Robert. And I want to thank you all for listening and have a good day. And please don't forget to like and subscribe if you like this podcast. If you want to get a hold of us, you can get a hold of us at the filmcrusader@gmail.com.
and remember, I'm your Huckleberry.
Stacy, I just wish you would shut your big strap. You've been yakking your mouth through this whole thing. When I'm the note, end on the note.
You didn't do it.
You know, I'm giving them where they need to send their comments and shit to, and you're like, I'm your Huckleberry. Yeah.
All right, Scott,
Okay.
you give it your Doc Holiday.
No.
Oh, come
I
on.
can't do him
Okay, well,
justice, so I'm
do
not gonna.
dad's.
I'm your Huckleberry. All right, that's going to do it for the Film Crusader. I'm Scott.
Stacy.
Robert.
Thank you for listening. Bye.